So my topic today is about a social contract and realizing our dreams. Now it's always very difficult to be a speaker at the end of the session where everybody's tired and confused by the power cuts and so on. But I think it's a very important topic to go through and to understand. And it's a good, what you call, shoe-in from the talk by my good friend, Professor Tajuddin, and subsequent talks about religion just now. So what I want to cover, why it's important to understand the social contract. When I happened to talk to Professor Tajuddin, he said, what's your next topic of my book? And I said, social contract. So their understanding of social contract is different from ours. And I'll explain the social contract dilemmas for the Borneo states and addressing whether there's a Borneo social contract and obstacles in achieving Borneo state's dream. So basically, I'm trying to debunk the typical Malay narrative, Chinese social contract with the Indians and the Malays, or the Malay social contract with the Chinese and Indian, vice versa. The topic actually is realizing our dreams. And it's a very difficult topic to talk about because each one of us have a different kind of dream. But I think the dream for Malaysia, it's the same. So let's talk about our dreams first, okay? And the best way to talk about our dreams, I like to start by talking about the Proclamation of Malaysia, the promise. I mean, proclamation is very important. You stand in front of the population and swear by it. And if you look at the Proclamation of Malaysia 1963, it says, forever be an independent and sovereign democratic state founded upon liberty and justice, ever seeking to defend and uphold peace and harmony among its people and perpetuate peace among all other nations. And in reference, we can go back and talk about the Proclamation of Malaysia Independence 1957, because there's a connection there in our federal constitution. It says forever a sovereign democratic and independent state founded upon the principles of liberty and justice and ever seeking the welfare and happiness of the people. So if you look at the Proclamation of Malaysia 1963, welfare of the people and the happiness of the people is missing. Okay? We talk about peace and harmony. So it's kind of strange because 57 and 63 was about 6 years. And the proclamation is, I would say it should be more consistent, but the wording is a bit different. So what is our dream? Well, you can talk about liberty, justice, peace, and harmony, and add on several things like unity in diversity, which Hock Song likes, and economic prosperity, and so on. In fulfilling our dreams, we need to understand that there are two facets of Malaysia, okay? One, we sit down around the table insisting the terms of Malaysia Agreement 1963 and to reclaim our rights like a gentleman with adat customs, okay? The Professor Tajuddin is talking just now about adat customs. And on the other side, he's shown some slides of this person. By now, you all know his face. On the other side, we have the radical elements using race and religion and the social contract to maintain the dominance over all aspects of Malaysian life. And both coexist as opposite poles. What is Dr. Johan talking about? You may ask, what has a social contract got to do with this? So let me explain a little bit, okay? It has a lot to do with Borneo. Let me explain. It's the Western philosophy, if you talk about what is a social contract, and it's connected with philosophers like Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau in 17th, 18th, 19th century. I don't want to bore you to death. You can read about it as you go along. But the social contract theory says that people live together in a society in accordance with an agreement that established moral and political rules of behavior. So the late James Massing aptly described it simply as You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, okay? An example, the social contract, the Keningau Oath Stone, where the native chiefs promised loyalty to the federal government in return for the freedom of religion. Governor Sabah holds authority over the land, and customs and traditions will be respected and upheld by the government. So in the context of Malaya, we always associate the social contract with the 1957 social contract. So basically, the social contract represents a consensus struck between the three major ethnic groups present in Malaya at that time, Malay, Chinese, and Indians. So the Chinese were given about 2 million citizenship in return for recognizing the special position of the indigenous Malays. And the social contract first emerged in 1980s, used by UMNO politicians. So basically, they borrowed the Western philosophy and used it for the UMNO agenda. The most important thing to know that the social contract is unwritten political construct and not in the federal constitution. However, in all reference of the social contract post-1957, it talks about Malaysia and not Malaya. So the social contract has been extended to Malaysia 1963 without you all knowing, okay? So let me explain further, okay? Give you more real example. This is what Mahathir said. He was a prime minister for 23 years under the BN UMNO government, and then he was another prime minister for another 2 years under the PN government, PH government, sorry. So many government, I get confused. So when Sabah and Sarawak joined Peninsula States to form Malaysia, and this is the his thesis on the social contract, which he wrote in 2008. And he said the social contract was extended to the two Borneo states, and the natives of Sabah and Sarawak were given the same status as the Malays. Given the same status as the Malays. At that time, the word Bumiputra was introduced to distinguish the Malays and the Sabah and Sarawak native from immigrants. The embodiment of the social contract is therefore the constitution of first the Federation of Malaya and then Malaysia. Saying that the social contract does not exist is like saying that Malaysia exists in a vacuum without constitution and laws. Note, the word Bumiputra is not in the constitution. It's a new construct to accommodate Sabah and Sarawak natives. Okay, you say, oh, he's only a prime minister. But then there are royal statements, okay? And one of the statements is by Raja Azlan Shah, who happens to be our former Lord President also. So he's a high legal person, and he's also a Raja later, okay? And he says this, okay? The Constitution reflected a social contract between the multiracial peoples of our country. Thus, matter of citizenship for the non-Malays, the Malay language, and the special privileges for the Malay and the indigenous people of Malaysia, he used the word Malaysia, was safeguarded and given added protection of requiring the consent of conference of rulers before the change could be effected to them. Okay, now this is a Raja, Lord President, using the word Malaysia. So they substituted from Malaya to Malaysia. The essential feature of this federal constitution ensures a social contract between various races of the country, embodied in the independence of Constitution 1957, is regarded and forever inures to the Malaysian people for their benefit. Okay? Now he's talking about the social contract 1957, and now he's talking about Malaysia. Okay? And he's in the Constitution, he says. Okay? And the Rulers' Conference issued a special statement on a social contract in 2008 and stated it is not proper to dispute and question the social contract, and more to subject it to review or change because it is the primary basis of the formation of Malaysia. Okay? I emphasize the word Malaysia. He did say Malaya, right? So Article 153 shall be the responsibility of the Pertuan Agong, as you know, to safeguard the special position of Malays and natives of Sabah and Sarawak, who are the Bumiputras. Okay? Essentially, the Malay Bumiputra benefits, quotas in public service, in government-funded scholarships, in education and training, which is a big issue now. People are getting 10 A's, 11 A's, and not getting into matriculation. And also in trade and business permits and licenses required by law. That's a privilege given to the Malay. Okay? And there's an interesting article, you can read about it, Who is the Malay, by Rosli Dahlan. Rosli Dahlan is also a prominent Malay lawyer. I think if you followed some of his article, you can read about him. He says, if, okay, use the word if, indeed the social contract has been embodied in the Constitution as a supreme law of the nation, all racial and ethnic consideration prevailing at that time of independence should be seen as having been fully incorporated in the founding documents of Malaysia, okay? And conditions have been agreed in writing. And to reopen the discussion on the same issue on race and ethnicity will be to dishonor the concluded bargain. Okay, so he used the word Malaysia. This lawyer, senior lawyer is talking about Malaysia. Okay. Okay, here's Badawi. He spoke on the 2005 Asia Media Summit. Malaysia as a successful example of what social contract has ensured peace and stability for 50 years. That's the time when we reached 50 years. Perhaps the most significant aspect of the contract was the agreement by the indigenous people to grant citizenship to immigrant Chinese and Indians. Chinese and Indians now sit in the federal cabinet and state executive councils. In return, the immigrant communities agreed to special economic privileges for the indigenous people given their disadvantaged position. He used the word Malaysia, okay? Is this a misstatement? I don't think it's a misstatement, but it's not how the West Malaysian politicians believe, okay? We need to distinguish the forest from the trees. The political power of Malaysia is based on a social contract. Important to understand the historical perspectives and the political construct behind a social contract. The social contract is the basis for Ketuhanan Melayu concept advocated by Malay nationalists. Though conceived in a pre-Merdeka 1957, the social contract is very much alive today and drives the Malay agenda in Malaysia using the 3 R's, royalty, race, and religion. I'll explain further on this. So examples of a social contract in action, okay? That was last year when Anwar was speaking to matriculation students and said some not so nice words. I think that was an Indian student was covered. She was asking a question. So Anwar tried to justify the Bumiputra quota for university and college seats on the grounds of social contract. Lawyers for Liberty slam Anwar, saying the social contract as used has been regularly used in Malaysia by ethno-nationalists, particularly from UMNO, to exert Malay dominance of other races. We are appalled that our Prime Minister, who claims to be a reformist, invokes the notorious social contract when speaking of equitable access to tertiary education. The allusion to the social contract is defending the Bumiputra quota is in part the concept of Ketuhanan Melayu and our country's policies. Okay, so that's Anwar Ibrahim using it last year. Okay. And then some more examples. And because if you don't understand, don't read, you think that has no connection with us, but it has a lot of connection with us. So this is Zahid in 2004, that's this year, July, and then Tengku Razali, May this year, and the Malacca Chief Minister in defense of that Akmal this year also. So Zahid says, I am responsible for seeing UMNO, and I will ensure that the component parties in the unity government, Madani government, adhere to all matters enshrined in the Constitution, protecting issues related to Islam and Malay rights, neither more or less, period. Okay, now this is UMNO leader talking, okay, this year. And Razali, the former Goa Musang MP, everybody know Tengku Rosali, also claimed that the Malay privileges have been misunderstood as a special treatment, clarifying they were entitlements as outlined in the social contract. So it's not a special treatment, but it's entitlements to the Malays, okay? Referring this to but the DAP concept of Malaysian Malaysia, which is closer to the Borneo concept of what Malaysia is all about. And in response to Akmal's, what Tajuddin Zorish mentioned just now, what Akmal's all about, and this is what the Malacca Chief Minister said. Therefore, Dr. Akmal's firmness represents the Malays and voices the sentiments of Muslims considering the matter should not have occurred because we have agreed in social context to respect each other's religious rights. And you can go further back. One Ahmad Faisal in last year is talking about only Malay should be prime minister, okay? And then Hadi, okay, last year also. Non-Muslims should be grateful for being given a place here, should just let the Malays continue leading the country, okay? You should be grateful, you are here, okay? You don't belong here, but you are here. And Tajuddin in 2020, not our Professor Tajuddin, but this, he's a good person, okay, says, this is Malay land, Tanah Melayu, okay? So don't forget about it. Sarawak is Tanah Melayu, Sabah is Tanah Melayu, okay? Don't have a misconception about this is Tanah Melayu. Okay, the Tanah Melayu, or the social contract, has morphed into the new economic policy. So Jomo cares what the new economic policy is the result of the May 13 riot, 1969, which has got nothing to do with us, no connection with us, but we are somehow being dragged into it. So Jomo says, in practice, the NEP policies were seen as pro-Bumiputra, or more specifically pro-Malay, for the largest indigenous ethnic community, which is the Malays, you know. And poverty education efforts has been seen primarily rural and Malay, with policies principally oriented to Malay presence, okay? So that's what it says. Actually, NEP is about Malay, okay? You all got nothing to do with it. You just take whatever crumbs that the Malay has given us. So as a result, Sabah has the highest poverty rate in the nation after 60 years, okay? Or the 61 years now. So has NEP helped us by change of classification to Bumiputra, which is not in the constitution. So you can read about the household income, Sarawak's also. We're not in good shape. So the economic policy is for the Malays. It's not for other races, even though in the constitution says Bumiputra should be protected also. Okay, what is the Borneo leaders' views on a social contract? I wrote an article in Free Malaysia Today in October 2019. Somehow the Dayak Daily and the Borneo Post and so on, Daily Express, picked up on my article and asked James Massing his opinion on it. So Tajuddin mentioned dignity just now. So my title of that article was Dignity, Respect, and Social Contract, in response to the Marwah Melayu Dignity Congress in KL, where all the academics gathered together and just talking about among themselves about protecting the royalty, the Malay rights and privileges. Okay? So Massing says, late James Massing says, the Malay social contract has nothing to do with Sarawak. Only applicable to back in 1957, pre-Malaysia era. It's not legally binding, has time limitations, And once you give them citizenship, I mean, talking about Chinese and Indian, they become citizens under the federal constitution, and you cannot kick them out just like that. Sarawakians has no social contract attachment with any of these people in Peninsula. And this is what Judge Masing said. And he gave a warning. So don't try to bring it here. It has nothing to do with us. We are Sarawakians, not Malayans. Let us be very clear about that and don't disturb us. Okay? But he didn't say about Sabah, just about Sarawak. But don't disturb us also. And what did Shafi said in the parliament about the constitutional amendment in April 2019? The Malaysia Agreement is not a social contract, but the United Nations recognized international document for the formation of Malaysia and should not be viewed lightly. The MA63 is the only legacy from our fathers of independence who wanted Malaysia's prosperity to continue. It's the only official document that gives legitimacy for our existence in Malaysia. So let's examine the paper trail. Okay, I do a lot of research on that, and I joined the great debate about the social contract because it interests me. Now that we understand a little bit of the social contract, does it apply to Borneo states? Now, this is a very important question. Firstly, you'll notice that this is a 1957 construct, okay, between the three races, Malay, Chinese, and Indian. And we are not one of them, okay? And Malaysia did not exist in 1957. So under international law, the Malaysia Agreement enjoys the status of treaty between sovereign nations. It does receive recognition and protection under our domestic laws and our public international law. That's what Tommy Thomas said in his book. Even after reading so many papers, and this is important, on the subject, I regret to tell you, we are party to the social contract by default, okay? By default, we are party to it. So you cannot ignore the subject by the social contract. Very sorry. Okay, and we have an asymmetric relationship in the federal system, okay? And in one article, this article which Harding wrote, I think with James was quoted here, and he talks about the federalism, okay, the original deal, which has not been fulfilled, undermining the political and constitutional autonomy of Sabah and Sarawak. And from the East Malaysian perspective, there are serious issues how federalism is practiced today. So, the Borneo social contract, is there such a thing? I think I had to finish this because otherwise I lose the whole idea of this. So give me a few more minutes. Like when the alliance partner of Malaysian time, when the Chinese, Indians, and Malay sat down together, we also sat down together. The gentleman was talking about the Cobalt Commission just now. We had the IGC and so on. We sat down together, like the Reed Commission in 1956. We sat down the Cobalt Commission 62, and also the IGC, okay? So what did we discuss? A lot of us now have forgotten about the 2018 points, but that it was part of our social contract, okay? And if you read Chad Faruqi, who was a constitutional expert, Professor Chad Faruqi, and he says, though the IGC report and the Malaysia Agreement were not fully incorporated in the Malaysia Act and the Federal Constitution, their sensitivity and quasi-constitutional status have been reiterated by our courts in several decided cases. I'm not going to list the cases. You can read about his article. So also Maximus says, after the passing of Article 1.2, he says all these documents, 18 points, 20 points, and so on, can be cited now as part and parcel of the legal arguments. The last picture actually is Tun Razak, who's the deputy chair of IGC, with Lord Lansdowne. This is a rare photo. It comes from my father-in-law's personal collection. My father-in-law was the MP for Keningau, the first MP for Keningau. So this is a rare photo which will appear in my book. So some days our dream will come true. So what is our dream? Using the Proclamation of Malaysia 1963 as a basis, forever be independent and sovereign democratic state, founded upon liberty, justice, ever seeking to defend and uphold peace and harmony, and so on. You can read about it. But I like what Rafida Aziz said. Malays should stop identifying themselves by their race and accept that they live in a diverse nation. She reminded the Malays they are no longer lived in Tanah Melayu or Malaya, but were part of Malaysia, a multiracial country. Tanah Melayu is no more, it's Malaysia now. So here we're still not united. We need to get our act together. So actually Malaysia Day is 16 September, Sarawak Day, July 22nd. I read the controversy about how the date was arrived. And Sabah Day, we are so kind to Malaya, we decided to have it on the same day as Merdeka Day. Don't know why. Is Dr. Jeffrey here? Okay, like an ordinary guy, I have a dream, you know. His dream is probably a nice girl, but what are obstacles in achieving our dream? Imported issues on race and religion, one. Freedom of religion was our number priority in 20 and 18 points safeguards. That's the first thing that we talk about, freedom of religion. Concerns on religion were expressed in many documents throughout our pre-Malaysia negotiation. If you look at all the negotiation, religion was one of the main concerns. So contrary to the 20 points agreement, Sabah official religion is now Islam, and where 70% of the population are Muslim. I am very ashamed to say that, because we should have stuck to the 20 points by freedom of religion. Now, we have created a lot of problems. While Sabah UMNO leaders claim to dissociate from Akmal's stand, he came to Sabah and gave a talk to UMNO youth. And of course, nobody knows he was there until he was arrested arrested at the airport. And Sarawak came out, was firebombed, Allah Bible issue, Christmas carols, conversion issue, etc. It's a matter of time for Sarawak. Okay, there's a warning. With 80% of the population, 34 million living in Peninsular Malaysia, and 60% of them are Muslims, we in the Borneo state should worry about politicians using the social contract. The RUU 355 and the position of stricter Sharia laws could soon become a reality. They're talking about that now. So to achieve our dreams, we must fight on two fronts to preserve our fundamental rights. On the first front, what is enshrined in the Malaysia Agreement 1963, and of course the matters are being negotiated. We heard this morning to various committees. On the second front, what is perceived as Malay rights by Malay nationalists and extremists, Ketuhanan Melayu, imposition of religion and the concept of superior race. That's even a bigger battle to fight than MA63, because it carries a higher level of emotions. We are not a party to the 1957 social contract, but we should never claim ignorance of the fact, because as I mentioned to you in my earlier slides, the Prime Minister, ex-Prime Minister, the royalty have used the social contract and included Malaysia, okay? So we have to stop to be reactive, like the YB Tangga was always slamming them, your side, Abdul Karim, mentioning we are reacting to what they're doing, okay? Okay, we should not be reacting, okay? We should be proactive. We can fight on the negotiating table, such as taking back education control, speaking English, etc. But the Malay political leaders using the social contract will continue to disrupt our fundamental liberties by imposing the 3 Rs. I can see, because of Sarawak's success, and Sarawak want to take back a lot of things, including speaking of English, the other sides are not happy. You have to be aware of that, okay? And they will try all kinds of things to throw the spanner in the works, okay? You have to be aware of that. My parting words: understand where they're coming from and know your rights. You have a Borneo social contract. Use that as your weapon. You have a social contract, it's unwritten. We have a social contract, but it's written, okay? And it's embedded in the Malaysia Agreement 1963. So kita pandai-pandai lah. You talk about Malay rights, kita pun ada rights ni lah, okay? So some of us might be apprehensive of me talking frankly about this issue, okay? But we are Sarawakans, we are Sabahans, we are open to this kind of talk, okay? So what I'm sharing in the symposium is being discussed every day and being used by politicians in KL, all right? Here you don't have that issue also, but UMNO in Sarawak, we have the issue, okay? Because the next election is coming, and UMNO is a party in the contest. So take note, race and religion will be the biggest disruptor for Malaysia going forward, not MA63, okay? That one you can sit on the table, all right? So fact check, like we mentioned this morning, without Sabah Sarawak, there's no Malaysia, and I hope after this, we'll talk more about the Borneo social contract until it becomes a norm in our written and oral conversation. So keep on talking. We have Borneo social contract. Huh? You understand what our Borneo social contract is about? Okay? So you can relate that, okay? But your social contract is not written. Ours is written. So let's honor it. So, as I said there, MA63 cannot be the end all for Malaysia, okay? There's more than MA63. It's a social contract that we have to deal with. Okay? So I'll end. Thank you for listening. My first book, Unequal Partners, is you can get in popular bookstore and so on. My second one is about the social contract, which is being edited now and should be coming out by next month. So if you're interested in knowing more about what I wrote, of course I explain more in the book in greater detail than what I've explained to you. But today I'm just touching on the surface. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. Our concerns going forward is not only a fight about MA63. Okay, that can be dealt with in the court of law and through political settlements. But when it comes to race, religion, thank God we don't have royalty here. It's a difficult issue, okay, because it invokes a lot of things involving Malay rights, okay, and some of the Malay rights are in the constitution, like religion is, it's the official religion. They're pushing for Malay language now, and of course Malay privileges under NEP. But I told you already through my slides, a lot of economists don't agree, that NEP is for everybody. It is not. Okay, so basically it's for the Malays who have benefited all these years and leaving us, Bumiputra, out of the scene. Okay, so thank you very much for listening to me.